This is a BSA DBD34 Gold Star Scrambler which I've been asked to get going, and I'm told that the guy who owns it actually started it, or tried to start it, but there was oil getting pumped out, spewing out here and there, and it turned out, I've checked, it was wet sumped. So I've drained the crankcase and poured the very clean looking oil back into the oil tank, and I'm just going to see if I can give it a try and see if it'll start and how it'll run for me. There's fuel in it. It may well have been alright if it hadn't been wet sumped. Sometimes when an engine's wet sumped, they can puke oil out of breathers and all sorts of places that they won't usually do it when they're not wet sumped. So as I've transferred the oil from the crankcase back into the oil tank again, I'm going to have a try and see what I get, if anything, for getting started. So let's have a look. This is my first attempt, as you can see. That's it. Got the fuel tap on, that was stiff. Let's tickle the carburetor. Here we go, the float's rattling now. Yeah, it was wet with petrol. Let's see what happens. Well, it's got some compression. The valve lifter doesn't seem to be doing anything either. Right. Oh, rum. Well, it started and it runs, although it was reluctant to do so. I think I've got some cleaning to do in the carburetor, because it kept dying unless I got my finger on the tickler button on the float chamber of the carburetor there and kept holding it down. So I suspect blocked or partially blocked jets, and certainly the pilot jet is probably partially or even completely blocked for it to be like that. So we're going to have a look at those things next, and then no doubt I'll have another go at it. But it started and it runs, it sounds okay mechanically. I didn't run it for long, but there isn't oil all over the place, so we'll see. I'll attend to the carburetor and get it running for a bit longer, hopefully, and see how it goes. Here we see that BSA DBD34 Scrambler again. the Gold Star 500 Scrambler, and I've done some work on it since I last filmed it, which was my first attempt at getting it started at all since it's been here, where it started up and ran, but obviously needed work because it wasn't very steady at low revs and wouldn't hold a tick over, etc. So I had a look. I've taken the carburetor, I took the carburetor right off it and stripped it right down. I even took the jet block out, everything out of it. And in all the years that I've been working on these carburetors, this is only the second example I've ever come across an Amel monoblock where you can get the pilot jet out of there. You take this nut off and the pilot jet is in there with the screwdriver slot, and you can unscrew it out, and they often, well, from time to time get blocked and they're easy to clear, and that often does the job. But in the instance of this one, the fuel passageway, you can just see the casting there, it runs through there. The fuel passageway to the pilot jet itself was actually blocked, and that's only the second time I've ever come across that. But I cleared that and I've put it all back together, and I have had the engine running. I've also tightened the cylinder head down because the owner said he thought the head gasket was leaking oil, which may have been aggravated because the engine had been in a wet sump state when he he started it and attempted to run it. So the oil, obviously I drained it out of the crankcase, it was nice and clean. I put it back in the oil tank and we've seen it running, and I'm going to run it again now just to show that it's running a lot more steadily, and that the carburetor seems to be working as it should be on the pilot circuit at least. I haven't ridden this bike, and I'm not sure that I'm going to or even want to, because it's so stunningly immaculate. I'd love to have a go on it, but I don't want to be the one that puts a blemish or a scratch or a chip on it anywhere, because it is absolutely stunning, this thing. The engine's running. I'm going to start it up now. It's got a very high compression ratio, obviously, because it's one of those engines where when you kick it to compression it just feels as if there's a brick on top of the piston. It just stops dead and there's very little you can do about it. The decompressor, I said, didn't seem to do anything. It actually does. The last little bit of movement back to the handlebars, it actually decompresses the cylinder head, or opens the valve to decompress it. So could possibly adjust the cable a little, but it is actually working. And it's a bit of a sort of catch-22 with the starting. It obviously seems happiest on full advance, which of course it should be, but if you retard it too far it becomes difficult to start, because these manual advanced magnetos, the sparks on them get slightly weaker as you retard them. The strongest spark is in the full advanced position, but the full advanced position is also where you're more likely to get a nasty kickback. So swings and roundabouts on that one. I'll just put a tiny bit of retard on it. I put the fuel on, tickle it up. I have had it running, there's no tricks here, this is not a cold start or anything, but hopefully we'll just see the difference in how it runs now as to how it ran when I first attempted to start it and got it running. So put the camera there, let's see what we got. Going if you can. Let's have a look in the oil tank. Good strong oil return there. stop that. Something's making a noise in there. I can hear like a rubbing noise. The engine seems to be going well enough, but hopefully the camera would have picked that up actually, because that's just started. Whatever that noise is has just appeared. So obviously next stop will be investigate that, and as soon as I know what it is, I'll share it. Now, continuing with that noise that I heard, it was a bit of a sort of scrapey sort of rubbing noise. I decided that I'd take the primary chain case cover off, and whether this is new or old I don't know, but there's markings inside there which correspond with this. So I've just checked, made sure that that wasn't winding undone and it's tight. So what I plan to do is run it with the primary chain case cover off and see if it runs without making a noise. But I've also found that the primary chain is just about bar tight there, so I'm going to adjust that, slacken it off a little bit as well, because that probably wouldn't help matters. So I'll get that done, slacken this off, leave the primary cover off. There's also very thick, gooey, almost grease-like oil in there, so I'll clean that out and put some engine oil in there. And when I do put the cover back on, but first of all I'll be running it with the chain a little slacker than that and the cover off, and see if there's still any noise, and if there is, then I'm going to have to sort of start taking a look at either the gearbox or the timing side of the engine. But I'm hoping it might have been something to do with this and the primary chain being so tight, so that's where I'm going to go next with it. Well, the next step I took with this Gold Star 500 Scrambler was to take the primary chain case cover off, and it was all full of horrible thick snotty oil in there, so I cleaned all that out. There was a sort of dry rubbing, scraping noise seemed to sort of develop while I was running the engine before, so I thought I'd take the primary cover off, and sure enough there's some marks there which may have happened recently or that's a little further in the past. But I wanted to check that this was screwed fully home, and it seems to be. I certainly couldn't get it to move any further against the engine in gear against the brake. I also took the opportunity to sort of even up the lift of the clutch pressure plate, which was lifting a bit lopsided, so I've taken care of that. So now I want to start it up and hopefully hear it running without making that dry sort of scraping noise that it seemed to start doing when I had it running last time, even though it's running much better than we having dealt with the carburetor. So once again I'll put the camera down here and I'll go and try and start it up, and we'll have a listen. I'll keep it running for a bit because it was running for a minute or two before the noise started. But I've slackened the primary chain adjustment off as well, because the primary chain was bar tight. gone. Slackening the primary chain off involves tilting the gearbox, the top of the gearbox towards the cylinder, the rear of the cylinder of the engine. So as a consequence, I also then had to slacken the rear drive chain off to compensate, because that had pulled tighter when the top of the gearbox moved. Well, I think that noise must have been that just touching there, I think. At least it doesn't appear that the noise was anything more sinister than that, because it's gone now. I'm going to try and retard the ignition timing, but I don't know that it'll keep running. That steadied the tick over a bit. Maybe I can screw it down a touch on the throttle stop. Maybe not. Well, for something with such a obviously high compression ratio, that's a fairly respectable tick over. I'll just put the camera down and just try and start it up again. I might be able to tune in a steadier slow running if I didn't like the air screw being screwed in. Maybe I'll clean it out a little. I think that's about as good as it gets. I think I'll take that. Obviously retarding it stops the engine. I might, while the primary cover's off, take the opportunity to check the ignition timing when the point's open relative to piston position, while I've got this exposed to rotate back and forth. And I suspect that the ignition timing may take advancing up a little bit, but not by much if it does. Overall I'm pretty happy with that, and that noise has gone, which is the main thing. And the next thing to do will be to run it for a bit longer, and so far I haven't seen any signs of any oil leakage. And on these BSA engines, the Gold Stars and the more mundane B31s and B33s, I think they've got them as well. Certainly a 350 Gold Star I worked on a few years ago had it. All the visible barrel and head nuts and studs. In the case of this, there's 7 of them. Well, there's actually 8 of them, and the 8th one is inside here behind this cover. And I think perhaps they get overlooked from time to time. But I've had that cover off and tightened that one as well as the other 7. So I want to run it some more and hopefully satisfy myself that the oil leaks that the owner reported were a result of the wet sumping and the cylinder head being able to be tightened down a little. So fingers crossed on that one. Here's that BSA 500 DBD34 Gold Star Scrambler, and I'm going to take it for a short run. You'll only come to probably about 4 miles all in, I guess, but I'm going to head up to the next village and dive down the Roman road and come back, because I've had the engine running on the bike lift and probably totaled about 15 or 20 minutes running time maybe by now, and I think I've got the reported oil leak at the head gasket under control, but running it on the bike lift is different to actually riding it, and obviously I don't want to and can't and shouldn't go very far on this, but a few miles would be good. And it's going to be my first ride on a 500 Gold Star. Actually, I've ridden a plunger framed ZB32 before now, and that's the only one to date, so this will be my first ride on a DBD34 in Scrambles trim, or any trim actually. So I'm going to get my bike gear on now, and we'll have a short run on it and see how it goes. Right, let's get this BSA Gold Star 500 Scrambler started up and take it for a short ride and see how it is. I haven't run it today at all, but it's a fairly warm day, so although it's a cold start, it's not stone cold by any stretch of the imagination. Right, let's use the decompressor. It'll probably stop when I let go of the throttle now, but started once, so I'll get my helmet on, start it again in all likelihood, and we'll go for a run. Thought it might do that. It'll tick over after a fashion when it's fully warmed up. And when we get back, I'll lean it on the wall. There's no stand on this one, and we'll have a look at both sides of it and check for any signs of any leaks and so on. It up again a bit. Let's see. Hopefully a reasonable camera angle. Decompress it again. won't be trying to see how fast this can go. I think it's the tyres, but handling is terrifying. Perhaps they'd be better in deep mud or something. It feels like the back end wants to overtake the front. Even going downhill with a throttle off. Very, very twitchy. Engine seems to run nice enough though. Quite a bit of clutch slip when you open the throttle. Yeah, look at this. Tyre pressures before I set out. I had about 25 in the front, about 27 in the rear. Maybe they didn't need quite that much, I don't know, but it feels more like they're both flat. At least it'll give the engine a bit of running time and I'll be able to check round and see if there's any leaks that need attending to. There we go. Looks like we're into a little bit of a tumble down here. Close this one off so we might turn in down the lane here with a bit of luck. I also noticed a little bit of pinking on full advance when you open the throttle. I think this guy wants to see how slow his tractor can go. Those tyres were pretty scary. Anyway, all clean on this side. I'll move it now and we'll have a look at it from the other side. Actually, what we can do, let's try a hot start, and then we'll have a look at the other side of the engine. Okay, starts alright hot. Let's lean it over here. All looking nice and clean on this side as well, actually. I don't think there's any oil leaks to worry about there anymore. I think the only worry we've got there is those tyres, which it could just be that they're so knobbly that it just feels like you've got two flat tyres when you're riding that on the road. That was as fast, every bit as fast as I wanted to go on that. I would have liked to have opened it up a little bit more, especially on the Roman road, and given it some throttle going up there, but I don't want to be spending out to repair or replace this, so it's not mine, and it's very nice and shiny and goes very well, so I think I'll quit while I'm ahead, but very nice bike all the same.